have some kind of shelter. One time the church was open and I snuck in the front door, immediately went up to the choir and laid down on one of the choir pews up there. And they locked up, turned the lights off and locked up, and I spent the night up there, which at least felt a little safer than trying to find some place to lie, you know. So this may not be so different from y'all. Maybe you have an auntie that you can run to. I did not. You know, I did not. So, and I've always been not wanting to drag other people into whatever is going on,
right,
you know, with me. So, pretty independent, actually.
yeah.
Being hard-headed
Yeah,
kind of helps along the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
There's a fine line between independent and hard-headed. You know, we have to figure it out for ourselves.
There is. That's right. Head like a rock sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Hey, maybe it's a good thing, you know?
I don't know. But, you know, for the most part, I did like high school, and I'll turn it back around to that.
Yeah. So you're in high school.
Okay.
You worked your tail off, did lots of different things, even though you got a lot of negative things, still obviously graduated.
Yes.
How old were you when you graduated?
I was 17 when I graduated.
Okay. And
I
then,
had a B average. I was in the top 12% of the class. Actually, even with all of this going on, there's no reason why you can't make the most of it. It's your life. Regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of that, it's your life. And it's what you do, what you put into it, you get.
That's right.
You know, so can't use childhood experiences, can't use any of that as an excuse not to do good for yourself, not to make the most of yourself, because we all have the capability, all of us have the capability to break that cycle, break that chain.
You just got to do it.
You have to do it. And even if there's, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's no excuse. No excuses. You can do it if you want to do it, you know.
Just don't give up.
Don't give up. Keep going.
That's good. All right. So you made it through, you graduated high school, and then, so I guess you went to college then, right?
I did go to college. I got scholarships. I did not have to get any student loans. Excuse me. I got scholarships. It was City College. Back then it was considered City College. It was Harris Teachers College, because probably at the age of 5 I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I never wavered with that, even, you know, throughout my years.
Right.
So went to Harris Teachers College, graduated from there, and immediately was hired by St. Louis Public Schools. So it was a little bit welcome back Cotter type thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Let's go back a little bit though through Harris Teachers College, just because I know a little more about that. Talk about, like, I mean, I know you got scholarships to pay for the school part of it. You didn't have to get loans, but, like, you know, people need to know that it's not like you got like a full ride scholarship to go live in the dorms and all that. Like, that's not how that works. Tell us a little bit more about that part of your life.
That was a city college. There were no dorms.
Right.
You know, and I had no car, and although I got a scholarship to pay for tuition, I worked 2 jobs also while I was doing that. I worked as a cashier at a restaurant called Steamboat Room, which was part of Woolworths back then. And I worked as a file clerk at the college. I rode the bus. I had to transfer buses. So there were times when, if I took a night class because of my jobs, I would catch the bus in front of the college. You had to go downtown and catch a different bus downtown, which ran once an hour back then. So essentially I would be waiting on a street with nothing open. There, no traffic, you know, just standing there waiting. And sometimes I'd have to wait an hour for the next bus to come. And then when you got off the bus, I walked 6 blocks, I guess, to get home. And then when I got home, washed dishes, had to take care of all that. And then, yes, we did have homework. And then I got around to the homework. And at that time, I was sleeping in the basement, so at our house. So, you know, difficulties and hardships, can't let that stop you from succeeding and from being the best that you can be. I'm very big on living up to your potential, at least striving towards meeting your potential. So my boys will vouch for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here, so yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so you graduated from Harris Teachers College, and then you started to be a teacher right there, right back in the mix, St. Louis Public Schools, and you were what, 21 at that time?
I turned 21 in October and started teaching in January. I graduated in 3.5 years, and I had enough credits to graduate, but I had to do a semester of apprenticeship at 2 different schools. So that was that last semester, which I made Dean. I have to a little tiny brag here. I made Dean's List that semester.
Yeah.
So
That's what, yeah. When I actually got to go work in the school, that's when I got to get Dean's List. When they made me sit in the classroom, I was like, oh Lord. But okay, so that happened there, and then now I know that was not all of your schooling because you got more school, but you also got married sometime in there. How does that work go? Does it go married then school, or school then married, or where are we at on this? We're 21-ish. We're teaching in the St. Louis Public Schools. So then what happens?
My ex-husband back then also went to Harris. He was 4 years older than I was. 2 weeks before, you have to understand there was still a Vietnam War going on, and guys were getting drafted, and you know, it was a difficult time as far as society and protests and things like that. So his name was Bill. He got drafted 2 weeks before he graduated. They let him stay to graduate. He went through basic and got shipped over to Vietnam. And when he came back is when we actually, you know, got together. We knew each other from college, but it was, you know, we were friends. When he came back from Vietnam is when we got back together, and then got married while I was teaching, and he was also a teacher. And I got transferred. I was teaching it's closed now, and this sounds terrible, I can't remember the name of that first school, but it fed Soldan High School. It is the school where I was at. Well, they had a school in my old neighborhood, one of my old neighborhoods, that didn't have any white teachers. And so I got transferred to that school to be the token white teacher.
Right.
Basically is why I got transferred, for no other reason. I got transferred because they needed somebody white at that school. So, and I taught there for a good while, you know, a long time. That was in the old neighborhood.
Okay.
You know, and Bill, my ex, was also teaching at a different school up that way.
So when he came back is when you guys got married?
When he came back is when we got married.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and
then while I was married to Bill, I started my master's degree.
Okay. What you got, and that's ironically, it's kind of funny. I'll just share this part. It's funny because your name is Webster, and then you go to Webster College, but your name at that time was Sickman, and then you ultimately end up coming back to being Webster. But it's funny that the one time in your life that your name was not Webster was the time you were going to Webster University.
That's true.
Which is funny to me, you know. But okay, so all right, kind of fast forward just a tiny bit here so we can get into some of the other stuff, because you've done I mean, we've done a lot of neat things. So you're in St. Louis, you're up there, you know, we're doing good, you're doing teaching, you're married, and then we know that there was a reason you moved to the Boot Heel eventually, but let's talk maybe about when Granddaddy and that part of the family moved to, I know they moved to Donovan, and then you were married with ex-Bill. How did that all transfer out? I know that you had a wreck, but were you still married to Bill when you had the wreck, or was that after? Or how did that kind of play out that ultimately got you to the Boot Heel?
No, I wasn't married to Bill then.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, the main reason that we split up is because I wanted to have children and he did not.
Yeah. I mean, you think you might have could have crossed that bridge before you got married, Mom? I mean, you know, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, that's actually what I said to him. I said, don't you think you should have told me that before we got married?
Right.
You know, because, so we ended up, you know, getting divorced, and we were both still teaching up there. And I had a the day after we got married, my family that lived in St. Louis moved to Donovan. So
That was just a coincidence, or did they do it because you got married?
no, well, I don't know, but no, it was a coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah, they moved to Donovan. My mom's dad, my grandpa Matheny, was living in Naylor, which is not that far from, you know, it's about 25 miles from Donovan. So they moved to Donovan, and which left me in St. Louis with Bill, and even at that probably was just the best thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Although things happen sometimes, and you question, well, why did that happen, or what's going on with that? But yeah, essentially, it was probably a good thing. So, and even at that, I'm married to Bill. We're both teaching. We're living in a house. My parents gave us a used refrigerator, and I let them have a key, because I'm very optimistic person, you know, and I try to see the good, and I always hope for the best, I do. So I let them have a key to my house, to our house, in case they came up and we weren't there, they could go on in, they wouldn't have to wait for us to get off work. So they came up, and while we were at work, took everything out of our refrigerator and took it back, because my brother needed one. So we came home, and, you know, we had a lot of rotten meat, and because it was like in the warm weather and at that time, and no refrigerator. So there was times when I wouldn't talk to my family for like a year. I just couldn't.
Right.
You know.
So, I mean, we ain't got to get into super detail, but
No.
talk about, you had that car accident. And that kind of ultimately led you to the Boot Heel. So let's kind of, I mean, it's an important piece of how you got down here. So I feel like we should probably at least touch on it.
I will. And I was divorced and moved around a lot actually after I got divorced. You know, I think at that time I did feel a bit lost. You know, I had friends, but I was teaching school in the daytime and tending bar on the Landing, which the Landing was a hot spot back then.
Yeah.
It was popular, it was busy, it was, you know.
You're probably making more money bartending than you were teaching.
You certainly had a better cash flow,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I was exhausted, honestly. I was just exhausted. And got off work and I fell asleep. I lived in the city always lived in the city. And fell asleep. It was like, I was going home and it was like 2:33 in the morning. And I fell asleep and hit another car head on. And taken by ambulance, upshot. I had to have a bone graft and skin graft, and it took about a year to recover from that wreck. No one else got hurt. I was driving, I hit a parked car head on. So for all of you speed demons out there, I'm just going to let you know, I was on a city street going about 35 miles an hour, and that's the result of hitting a parked car head on. Just me. No, I wasn't wearing a seat belt. You may want to keep that in mind also, you know, and they had to cut me out of the car. I went through the windshield, not completely, but enough.
Yeah.
So my parents came up, and one of the things I remember in the hospital, I was in ICU for a few days, they kept asking me about family members, and I wouldn't give them any information about my family.
Right.
You know, and I finally gave them one of my friends' names, and she came up, and she was also a teacher. I'd known her from college, you know, and she contacted my family, so my parents were both living at that time, and they came up and got me and brought me to, by then they were living in Dexter, and brought me down to Dexter. And even then, I'm going to tell you, even then, I would have them take me to Poplar Bluff to catch the bus and go back to St. Louis. You know, have somebody pick me up at the bus station and stay up there and, you know, for a while. But I finally gave it up and said, all right, I'm going to have a bone graft and a skin graft, and I'm going to have to do this and, you know, get tough still, you know.
So did you have those in the city, or did you have them down this way? Where'd you have the?
I had both of those in Poplar Bluff.
Really? I didn't know that. That's something new. I thought you had them in the city.
No, both surgeries in Poplar Bluff, and even then, my parents didn't have a lot of money. There was just not any money, and so I went out. In between surgeries, I went out to try and find a job so I could help. You know.
But you weren't trying to get no like teaching job and stuff. You just got a job.
No, I got a job waiting tables. I got a job waiting tables at Hickory Log. That was my first job down this way, and they found out that I knew how to attend bar, and so then circumstances led to them assigning me to the bar.
Yeah.
So,
which, you know, for me and Chris, that turned out to be pretty okay, because had you not been bartending, probably wouldn't, I mean, I know somebody introduced you, but there would have been a less chance you would have met Dad, and so, you know.
That's true. One of the waitresses introduced me, because I didn't really know anyone in Dexter.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I wasn't planning on staying in Dexter. I was going to try and save some money and go to Colorado, if you want the truth. It was Colorado or buy a horse is what I wanted to do. But, and I always tease Andrew. I say, yeah, instead of a horse, Mama got you.
Yeah, you got me.
But anyway, I got introduced to a lot of people by people that I was working with, basically. And I also met not just their dad that way, but I also met school board members at the time and high school principals, and because they would all come in Hickory Log Bar on a Friday afternoon when